Is day 22 of the Vegas shutdown. So that is, we have, what do we have, 21 days left or something? Is it like half and half? Or 22 more days. Something like that. But we just went to the stadium yesterday, you guys. That was really cool to see the stadium, but it's crazy because, here in Vegas, Governor Sisolak decided that the construction would still be essential business, which is a good thing. See, I am not saying that's a bad thing. What I'm saying is that it doesn't make any sense that he would consider construction still essential if the virus was as deadly as they're saying it is. And we talked with a bunch of the workers, and they don't even think anything of it. The ones that we talked to yesterday, we've talked to ones in the past that were a little bit scared, after someone had tested positive. Now the workers we talked to yesterday when we were at the stadium, they were just laughing about the virus. They're like, oh, virus, yeah, right. And they work in close quarters. We have a bunch of photos and stuff. It's like, so, which is fine. I am not trying to say shut that down. What I'm saying the opposite. I'm trying to say open everything up. And people are saying, well, the virus, but Governor Sisolak is saying construction is fine, which construction is not essential. Think about that, you guys. How is construction essential? For the entire month. We need construction moving forward, but I'm saying, think about, it could have been shut down for a month, but the reason why they didn't was the Raiders Stadium, because that's Governor Sisolak's, whole project when he became governor, and how he became governor. I'm sure all of his people to make him governor were for the Raiders Stadium, because that's been his thing. And that's why he didn't want that to stop during this whole shutdown, because then it would not have opened on time, which is kind of crazy, because now the opening is they're supposed to finish July 31st this year. So it's in a couple months, right? And I'm like, okay, great. Now you guys are going to open on time, like they had been saying they were not going to be late. But there's going to be nothing for them to open to. There's going to be no one in Vegas. So it really doesn't make any sense. But what happened is the construction guys also, if they finish on time, they get bonuses. So they don't care if it's going to be an empty stadium when it's complete. They just wanted to get their bonuses by finishing on time. So there's just been, there's a lot of greed in this town, and people will do anything. And construction is a big thing in Vegas. We have so much construction 24/7 here, and it's a big scam here too. Not all of it. There's legit construction here, but there's a lot of scams here. That's where they scam and launder a lot of money, is through construction. That's where the mafia basically went into construction. If you guys didn't watch Sopranos, the mafia had to go somewhere, and they went into construction. So there's a lot of places where you can fudge numbers in construction, and that still happens a lot. And I know this firsthand from people in construction. You guys don't know this story, but we had met with an inspector from the Resort World, and they took us on the Resort World, and then he ended up getting fired by taking us on the Resort World, which we were like, what? We thought we had permission. But anyways, he told us a lot of information about the inside stuff of construction, and he spoke a little too much. This guy was just... But it was funny because we got it all on tape. We might release that someday. I don't know. We've never showed who he was, because after everything that happened. But he told us a lot of stuff of what was going on with Gentry, which is the company from China. And they wanted to buy up the Wynn and the Encore and a lot of the property on the Strip, because they're the ones building the Resort World. It's a man from China. And he has been working on this for 10 years. He doesn't even care that he just wastes money like crazy. And now we already thought that the virus was kind of a spoof from China, in the sense of how much they exaggerated it. that's kind of like what I first thought, because they were the first ones to say there was a virus. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a virus. There's a flu virus, but it's a normal flu virus. I was just looking at the numbers yesterday, and the way they write it, they try to scare people. Like, it'll say I forget the exact number, so don't, like, quote me on the numbers, but I'm just going to throw out a number it was close to. It was like 1.3 billion people have gotten the virus or something. The way they wrote it was like so you think that many people have like died from it, but then if you read on, it's like, but only X amount have actually died. So like more have recovered than have died. But the way they write the headlines is so ominous, as if you think like millions have died. Like you really have to look at it, and you're like, oh wait, no. And then this was like, the real official things coming out. The stats, but just the way they write the headline for the stats, all of the news companies or whatever thing that is pushing it, they really want this hysteria, and that's what makes me think something's up. And so what I originally thought was that my theory was that the Chinese had a virus, which every year we have a flu virus, and what I've also heard is that we have these big ones during election years. So all this coming into play. So China wanted to attack the U.S. economy. And the best way to do it is to just scare us, because we're so easily spooked by things. And they said the virus attacks the old people, which all of our politicians are old. So they freaked out, which every flu virus attacks old people. That's who dies from the flu virus. And people with immune deficiencies, that's who's dying now. So it's the same people that they say are the flu virus always attacks, is the same ones for this one, but they're just exaggerating it more, like all of the old people. So all of the old people are getting worried, they're like, oh my god, I could die. So it made this mass hysteria. But then also I feel like our government is involved with the mass hysteria at this point, because what happened is, because you remember in the beginning Trump kept saying it was a farce, and normally I don't know, Trump is often wrong about things. So I was kind of like, I didn't know what was going on, but I was like, it seems like it's being overrated. And then everyone got on Trump's case, and they said, oh my gosh, Trump is not paying enough attention to this virus in China, and this is really serious, and then they're spreading around the world. So then Trump finally had to take it serious. Well, I've been saying all along that I think the Democrats are using this to ruin Trump's presidency, because at first they said, oh, he didn't take it serious, and it was on all of, if you watched any kind of like the comedy news ones, the regular news ones, anything, I mean, everyone was going on that Trump was not taking this seriously, from John Oliver to CNN, they're just like, all were like, and what's interesting is most of the ones that were saying that, well, of course, would be the Democratic people, but I have been saying that this is an attack from the Democrats, because Trump was going to become president again, most likely. And Trump also was learning how to become a dictator. He said he wanted to become president for life. And Vladimir Putin just became president for life. And, we know Trump and him are best friends. If you don't think they're best friends, you're out of your mind. But like I've said before, I'm not political, so I don't vote. So when I talk about these politicians, I'm not saying one or the other. I'm not trying to sway you guys which way to vote. I'm just speaking my mind about the politicians. I think they're all kind of like, it's all BS. Here's your rich here.
I gotta feed the baby.
Oh, you gonna feed the pagers. Is that still okay? Mm-hmm. And so, is it going okay? Mm-hmm. So when I say this virus is an attack, I believe it's the Democrats attacking our economy, because what'll happen after this, they're hoping, is that someone will say, oh, Trump was a horrible president, look at how he handled this virus in the first place, because that's why they made such a big deal about him not jumping on it. And then they'll say, look at what happened to the economy while Trump was president. So that's what I think the tactic is. Now, you'll say, well, there's really this virus. Well, there's a flu virus every year. And if you look at the numbers, this one is less severe. They keep saying this one is more severe. They are saying this one is more severe. But if you look at the numbers, that is not what is happening. So the words they're saying as the titles do not line up with what is actually happening. So you need to be very careful when you're reading these headlines to actually read what it says below. Because the headlines will say, 1.3 billion affected by coronavirus. And then you read below and it says, 500,000 recovered already. Or so you're like, okay, well then now our numbers are coming down. Then it'll say less things, and it'll say less things, and it'll say less, and you're like, okay, then we get down to, I think it was like 7 or 9,000 in the U.S., which the normal flu virus every year kills around 50,000 in the U.S. and 650,000 worldwide. 650,000. So what they keep trying to do is write these headlines that make you think this one is closer. I was telling them, I saw this one.
It's called, the term that's being used, they're doing now, they've done in the past, it's called misuse of statistics.
Yeah, so what they're doing, I saw this one yesterday that it said, I was telling them, Jared, did you hear the one I was saying? Yeah, he left. But yeah, that one I really was like, because I try not to pay too much attention to a lot of this nonsense, and we don't watch the regular news. The only time I catch it is when I'm with clients that they have it on. Because I just can't stand the regular news, and we don't even have a regular TV. We watch just stuff on our iPad if we're going to watch anything like on apps, and we don't really watch anything, but we'll watch some movies once in a while and like some regular shows, not like we don't really do like the TV shows. We do like we don't like do like sitcoms, you know. We do like the full-on series that you get like on Apple TV's got the best shows right now. But anyways, that's another point. But so I am firmly believing that this virus has been exaggerated. And don't get me wrong, there's a virus, okay? Everyone's like, oh, there is a virus, but you gotta look at the numbers. It's smaller. The numbers are smaller than the regular flu virus. But they're saying this one is more extreme. They're saying that. But then the numbers don't line up. So just pay attention when you're watching things, for headlines can be so deceptive. And then they won't truly be lying most places, because some things lie, but most, if it's a valid news source, won't lie. They'll just write it to where you would think it's something different, like it could be implied almost something different, you know. And so if you look at it quickly, you get confused, and they know that, you know, they figure out which things are like attention grabbers and stuff, you know. That's what those people get paid to do, is find the headlines that snap. They have one, you know, you have the journalists that write the thing, but then you have the person that their whole job is to pick which headlines are going to snap and grab your attention. And you know, you learn this in that movie. What's the movie? I can't think of the name right now, and Jairich walked away, but the one where the guy, the real Citizen Kane, where the guy buys the newspaper and controls the media, and he literally says in that he controls the news by how large the title of the story is, meaning what's on the front page is what's going to be news, and what's going to be the top thing is going to be news. Things in the back are not going to be. So he gets to decide what's news. And here in Vegas, we actually had Sheldon Adelson, who is the owner of Sands, which is the Venetian and Palazzo, and then they have properties all over the world too. He bought the Review Journal, and the Review Journal now also owns the Vegas Sun. So it's basically all the newspapers here in Vegas are owned by one casino owner. So Jedi Rich got on that a couple months back as like, that's ridiculous, because you realize like how much power that is. He could write crap about his competitors and put out all his competitors, and it's kind of what happened in the last year. Like Wynn's gone, MGM, they have had all kinds of issues and stuff, and see, he gets to control what's said in the media about Vegas, which can really control what people think about it. You know what I mean? So it's very bad to give one person so much power. And that's what people were worried about with Trump. And, you know, I did have that fear too. And so I am a little bit worried if he becomes president again. But at this point, what the Democrats have done, I don't think any of them should be president either. So now I don't really know what we should do for 2020, to be honest. I don't vote, so you guys have to figure that out. I've never voted. I was in the Air Force for 4 years, and I still didn't vote because from the time I was very young, as soon as I found out how our voting system works, and especially the Electoral College, I just didn't agree with it. I'm like, so basically everyone can vote for someone and then they could still not win the popular vote. I thought that was kind of BS. So I at a very young age realized that our democracy is, you know, not as much freedom as we think, and now we're realizing that. I hope you all are realizing that. But one of the best things you can do to fight against your government is to not vote. Because that's really, you know, if no one votes, they're going to have an issue. But we just continue to vote and think, I don't know, and then they continue to cheat. And so our votes don't really count, but we continue to, like, if everyone stopped voting, they'd have to reevaluate the system. But people won't do that, I'm sure. I'm sure I can't get everyone to stop voting, so... But yeah, that's how change occurs, not by just continuing to say, well, you know, I gotta vote for someone. If you don't like any of the candidates, don't vote for them. I don't understand the like, yeah, this one's better than the other one. I'm not voting for anyone if I don't. I've actually never agreed with any of them since I've been aware enough, you know, like the first president I remember is the first Bush, really, because I know all the presidents. I know the presidents' names, actually, in order. I did my little president's song. It's on one of these things. Maybe I'll do it for you guys if I feel like it. But I only, like, was aware, really, since, like, the first Bush. And that was when I was in, like, first grade, I remember. So, and then when I was in the Air Force, it was the second Bush. So I went in right after 9/11. So I joined the Air Force at 17. I graduated high school a year early to go into the military because 9/11 had just occurred, and I decided I wanted to be a pilot, but so I decided to go in the Air Force, and but then my mom killed herself. So I got out. I was gonna be getting out when I was 21, but she killed herself when I was 20, and then I still got out when I was 21. But I was gonna stay. Like, I was ready to re-enlist, but then she killed herself, and so I got out. But anyways, so I understand death, you know, and right now a lot of people are scared about dying. But for one thing, I'm telling you guys, this virus is a farce.
How do the workers see you at the stadium?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. We talked to the workers, and they literally were laughing
to this.
about it, like, as it's like
well,
a joke.
Well, here's the thing, though. They're all doing all these progress reports and doing all this stuff. But the stadium is being paid for by the hotel tower.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. So, like,
it's a bigger issue. But
it's a
also,
huge
check this
issue.
out. Their main sponsor, Allegiant Stadium.
Yeah.
Allegiant Airlines.
Yeah.
I just read just now that they released today. They are losing $2 million a day.
I know, because you guys, they're having planes that are flying with no people, really, because like one or two people, you know what I mean, but so empty, but they still have to fly once in a while. But every time you put a plane in the air, it is so expensive. I know that from the military because I was on the AWACS plane, which is our surveillance plane. It's a Boeing plane with the big rotordome, the radar rotordome. I don't know if you guys have seen it. It looks like a regular commercial plane, but then it has this cool, like, radar dome on top. And it's black with like a white stripe. It's the Airborne Warning and Control System, so that's what AWACS stands for. So I was an airborne surveillance technician on the plane, and then I became an instructor. But I know when we would fly, every flight that we did cost the military like it was like $1 million, and a lot of it was for fuel. Fuel is very, very expensive for planes. So when these commercial airlines are having to fly, even if it's just a couple people, the fuel is what is so expensive. So Jarvis just said Allegiant is losing $2 million a day. I could see that because I know it was so much when we would fly. I know when they cut back after 9/11. So what happens when you go to war, you know, they use so many resources, and then they'll cut back a little bit, like after the initial, so like when everyone went to Afghanistan right after 9/11, then they came back, they really cut back all the hours for flying just because it's so expensive. And so they had cut back ours because, you know, in the military, a lot of the stuff is just training, which it's necessary if there ever is a war, but a lot of it is just training. So they're spending, you know, so much from the military too for just training. It's very, very expensive. But I don't know what they're doing with the military now. I'm sure they haven't cut back on that. So, but man, this is just a mess. The snowball effect, people haven't realized of what's going to happen for shutting down society for like over a month now. It's going to be. I don't know what every other... I read that China is going back to normal, which is what I'm saying. This whole thing was them getting us all fired up, and then back to what I was saying about Resort World. So Genching, I think it is. I say words weird sometimes. So they wanted to buy up the strip. So what they've just done, if this was like China exaggerating it so that we jumped on it, then now they've just made the strip super inexpensive because these casinos are gonna have to sell a lot of them, and they're already having to dump shares and stuff. You can buy up some Vegas shares for really cheap right now, and already some of the owners of the current casinos are buying shares to try to help, like, to keep the sales up, and then also so that they don't lose more of their company, so that they can be, you know, the primary shareholders. So they're having to buy more shares. But it's a mess. So if that's the case, then that guy can buy up most of the strip like he wanted to. And we didn't even take the guy very seriously, the inspector that told us all this, until we put it on our website. And we put it on our website, and we got a call from Genching, and they asked us to remove the stuff, and then they fired their inspector. And we were like, oh man. And all we said was that they wanted to buy the win and Encore, and that's what we were told. So apparently we dropped a bomb that we weren't supposed to say, and this was like a year ago. So interesting. We always are making people mad. We don't even, okay, sometimes we try to, but a lot of times we're not even trying to make people mad and they get mad, you know. And I mean, I know Alien Nick makes people mad, but anyways, so if you guys haven't noticed, we've really cut back on our Twitter social media because we're pretty mad at Twitter right now. I mean, they not only bring down our accounts all the time, they also have like censored our accounts, so we don't really get any like exposure, because Twitter controls, you know, who gets to see what. So like, once you've already been like in trouble by them, you really notice that your stuff doesn't get viewed. It just doesn't get distributed. They kind of like put like a what did one of the porn stars call it? You get I forget what she calls it, but shadow banned, in a sense. And they literally can make it to where people can't find you. One of my accounts, they did that because once I started doing like some sexy photos, they shadow banned me. And then if you searched for my name, it wouldn't come up. You'd have to like find someone that maybe had tweeted to me, and then you could maybe click on it or something. But if you actually searched like Jenna Jervis show or whatever, it wouldn't come up. This was my other one. I've had so many accounts now. They've taken down so many. Same with YouTube. Everyone has taken down accounts now. And you know, you could say, oh well, just follow the rules or whatever. Well, I do try to. I mean, I don't try to just get taken down. That's not my goal. But I also don't kowtow to things that I don't agree with. So when companies have rules like no nudity, I follow that rule. But then they stretch it, and then they say, oh no, but this is too sexy, so that counts. That we can't have either. But then now you're extending it, so then now I don't agree with that because I followed your no nudity rule. But now you're saying, and what's not fair is they allow some nudity on some of the apps, but they say, you know, artistic nudity. But when I'm doing mine, I'm doing artistic. I'm doing like photo shoots. What I do is like I'll do BTS's like go behind the scene while I do my photo shoot, and I'm wearing sexy clothes. And I've been taken down a lot of times for those ones because they say it's just too sexy. Which, all right, fine. they say go to Pornhub or whatever, but you're like, I mean, YouTube doesn't tell me go to Pornhub, but I mean, that's what people have said. But the problem is, Pornhub is not the right thing either, because all I'm trying to do is just like a little bit of sexiness. I'm not trying to do nudity. I don't do full nudity for free. I sell that, but I don't do full nudity for free. So I'm not trying to do the porn stuff. I just want it to be like artistic, sexy, you know? And all of these apps are like, no. But what's unfair is that the people want it, because I get the views from the people, but then the app will say, no, we don't condone that. I'm like, okay, it's just a sexy photo shoot. I don't understand. And I have it marked as no kids and 18 and over, which is now what you can do on YouTube. So, which I can never be paid. If you mark 18 and over, you can never be paid. Like, that means that you can't monetize it. So when I'm choosing that, I'm not wanting any money from YouTube. I'm just trying to put out my art, and they still take it down. So I'm like, whatever. I understand we're in a very, very repressed and conservative society right now, and especially when we're in a Republican time, it's always more conservative. I don't know if you guys realize that when there's a Democrat, it's usually a little bit more like people are a little more sexual, and then when there's Republicans in office, then we are a little bit more repressed and more conservative and stuff, because it's just kind of like it's just the way the society goes, just because like Republicans tend to choose more family stuff. They're not for abortion. They're not even for really using any kind of protection at all, you know. So they're kind of more anti-sex, because they think sex should only be for procreation and, you know, in marriage and stuff. So that then puts this whole thing on society, whether you're Republican or not. It just kind of like puts this little dome over. And then when there's a Democrat, then you get a little bit more of that freedom. I've just noticed that just in the time that I've gone, like I said, I've only been really alive since it was the first Bush, but I've seen it go Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, and now Trump. So I've seen it go, you know, Republican, Democrat. And so I've seen just how society kind of acts during those times. And you can see it happen right away. It's interesting, where people just start to be more conservative, you know, in their dress and everything. More, like, you can look at the artists. Like, you'll look at Miley Cyrus, how she was dressing when Obama was president. You know, she was masturbating on stage. And then now that it's a Republican, and, you know, it's all kind of like everyone's really conservative, wearing a lot of clothes. You don't see very many artists really showing their stuff. But the other reason why the artists are not showing off is because a lot of the artists are gaining weight. And the reason is, the biggest reason people are gaining weight right now is coffee, which I did some blogs about earlier, and no one wants to believe it. And I mean, caffeine, totally, not just coffee, caffeine. But it's usually coffee is the biggest one for people. But it can be the energy drinks too, so don't be thinking, and tea. So it's caffeine, period. But caffeine is the little one that no one is realizing that they're putting on the weight, because I'll do a real quick thing right here of why caffeine is an issue. So what happens with caffeine is it dulls all of your senses. That's what caffeine does. That's why you feel less tired and you feel less hungry. So people think that it's making you less hungry and making you less tired, like as if it's giving you energy and just, or making you not hungry. But instead what it's doing is it's just making you not feel as hungry or tired, because it's all of your senses are being dulled down. But what happens when you do that is you don't just dull those senses, you dull all of your senses. And one of the things that you dull is your senses to know when to produce insulin. So what happens is you have your insulin regulators. Well, those get dulled down. So then your body thinks it needs to produce more insulin. So every time you take a cup of coffee, you're telling your body to produce insulin. Well, the problem with producing more insulin is insulin tells your body to store fat. And it also tells your body to go into like a dormant mode and to be more sedentary. And that's why you end up getting more tired and need more coffee later, or stronger coffee. or any kind of caffeine, not just coffee, like I keep saying. But people will be like, oh, I don't drink coffee, I do. And then they don't realize they're getting caffeine to something else, because caffeine's in so many things now. Like any of these drinks, most of them have caffeine. You gotta be careful. Once you start to realize that, you'll be like, oh, why is this so good? Like if you cut out the caffeine, you'll be. This happened to me in the beginning. We only drink water now, so it doesn't happen. But when we used to maybe drink other beverages, and you'd be like, ooh, this is really nice. I feel really uppity. What's that about? Then you're like, oh man, it had caffeine. No wonder. And then you're like, darn, because what'll happen if you end up cutting out the caffeine, which I recommend right now, is since you're not going to work, try cutting out caffeine, and you'll feel not good. So you'll be like, oh, I hate that. That was awful. But you need to do it if you want to lose weight, because that is the weight that you're probably not accounting for, is every time you're drinking that caffeine, you're telling your body to store fat. So year after year, you actually are getting fat just from caffeine. Because every single time you drink that caffeine, you tell your body to store fat. And you also dull all of your senses, so that's just really not a good state to be in all the time. That's why people are so sluggish. And you don't realize they dull their senses, but they think for a minute, oh, I'm more alert because I don't feel tired. But really, like, everything is dulled, which is not good, because then you're just not as alert. You're not as focused. You think you're more focused after a cup of coffee, but you're not. That's why people, year after year, you actually start to have more and more problems, focus problems. Kids are having more problems because kids are drinking caffeine earlier and earlier. I started drinking caffeine at the age of 5, and maybe even caffeine before that. That's when I started drinking coffee. My mom started giving me coffee at 5 years old. She'd wake me up with it because we had to get to school at like 5 a.m. because she did the morning thing. I went to a Christian school, so if people now like don't agree with the way I am, I grew up very different. I grew up probably how some of you are. I went to a Christian school, but my mom was poor, so we couldn't afford to pay for the Christian school, and it was like a crappy Christian school. It was not like a nice one. I think it was like $150 a month for the kids to go, but my mom couldn't afford that for me and my sister. $150 a piece, so it was going to be like $300. She couldn't afford that, so she did the extended day, which was in the morning, and the after school we were watching the kids, and when we also cleaned the school. She was the janitor, and I helped her. So I cleaned my school my whole life. So people sometimes, don't know that about me, because they see, like, if you're like, a lot of times, like, if you're a white cute girl, people just assume you were privileged, and that was not the case with me. My mom did not have money. My dad left when I was like 6, and then my mom struggled with jobs, and they didn't have money even when my dad was around. They decided to be missionaries when I was really young. We went to Mexico and stuff, so they didn't make the best career choices for kids, I guess you'd say. But anyways, so I understand, where a lot of people are coming from, where I think sometimes people don't know that about me. They'll think, like, oh, that girl just probably has had an easy life, or, like, people will judge, like, especially where we live. We live in an area that is the poor area, I guess you would say. And sometimes people are like, oh, what are you doing here? You're like, I've been here my whole life. Are you kidding? I grew up in these, like, weekly apartments. That's where I grew up. So, I actually prefer this kind of living because I like being with the people. I don't think I could ever be okay with just, like, living lavishly while other people weren't. Like, there was times when I had money and I still, like, gave it away to people all the time, because I don't like that. I think we should be more a community. So in one sense, like, one thing I like about what's happening right now is, in a way, we're becoming more communal, whether we want to or not, because people are going to have to start helping out each other as we build our society back together. There's probably going to be a lot of nastiness, too, where people aren't going to help each other, and that'll be unfortunate, but hopefully we see people start to really realize that their priorities were out of whack. Like, if you were focusing so much on, let's say, just becoming so rich and forgetting about your family or something like that. Like now people are spending time with their family, which can be hard, I know. I'm sure some people want to kill each other at this point. They're like, if the virus doesn't kill you, I'm gonna. So I'm sure people, what's cool with me and Jai Rich is we're used to being home, but we still have wanted to kill each other during this a bunch of times. We fight big, but that's like what's cool about us is we don't hold back our feelings. So we get in big fights and then we're over it. Where a lot of people will like keep in their emotions and then just, be like snippy and be passive aggressive. A lot of people are passive aggressive, which is really lame because that's how most of my family is, where you just like never really yell at each other, but you just are snarky to each other all day long, like make little snide comments and act like it's just sarcasm and stuff, and which sarcasm is not funny. Sarcasm is just mean humor. It's true. People are like, oh, I'm just being sarcastic, but sarcasm comes from the truth. So usually when someone says something that's sarcastic, it's how they truly feel, and then they just say, oh, I'm just kidding or being sarcastic. But like usually it'll be like something really rude, and then they're like, oh, I'm just kidding. You're like, oh, really? Well, that sounded like something you really feel, because where'd that come from? And so we are really about sarcasm in our society. Like we think that it's funny. They put it in the movies as if it's so funny, but it's usually just mean. Sarcasm humor is usually not funny. I mean, it's just usually just saying rude stuff to someone. And so I used to be really sarcastic, but now I try to be more just speak my mind and not say little snide things under my breath. Like say it out loud and then, figure out like reap the consequence of when you say something rude to someone and under your breath, you go, and then they don't hear you. But like say it to them and then see how they respond. And it can be bad sometimes in the sense that they can get really mad at you, but it's way better than that whole passive thing, because that passive thing is where people end up getting depressed or blowing up in the future. Because if you are feeling snide things towards your partner or your kids or whoever it may be, your parents, if you're watching, I don't know your ages on here, you're probably not supposed to be too young if you're on here for YouTube. You're supposed to be over 18, but whatever, I'll let your parents figure that out. Okay, so I heard this funny thing. So someone commented on our YouTube saying that they were watching the YouTube, but then their mom was appalled by me because of my attire or something, I imagine, because I sit in my underwear. This is a swimsuit actually though, so I'm actually wearing more than people wear at the pool. This is a swimsuit, it's not even underwear, and this is more than a swimsuit top. But I guess they were watching and I was talking about nutrition yesterday, so I love talking about nutrition, but Jai Rich tells me to not talk about it so much because it bores people. Because all I want to do is talk about nutrition. But I'll talk about it more in future blogs. But I like to wear what I wear around the house. That's why I am. Sometimes when I do these things, I'll get all done up, like when we do the singing. But when I do these, I like to keep it like the way I'm wearing. I might adjust a little bit, if it's not something, like if it's something too see-through. But I like it to be basically, this is what I wear around the house. This is what I wear. I wear either underwear or bathing suit bottoms and a top. That's all I wear all day. So whenever we have a delivery, I have to try and throw on some shorts, but half the time I don't. So I often get the delivery in my underwear. We get so much delivery now because what happened is they are not allowing packages to be delivered to the front desk, which is pretty nice because we used to have to go. Our front desk is really far. It's quite a hike. This apartment's a pretty big lot. So we'd have to go up there because we order from Amazon a lot of stuff now, and especially now you have to order. That's how you're getting stuff now. So they used to deliver to the front desk, and we'd have to go hike it back, and we don't have a car, so we'd have to carry everything. But now they're bringing it to the house, but you get knocks on your door all the time, and you're like, it catches us off guard because we're not used to getting somebody knocks on the door, and we're like, who could that be? And then they're bringing some package or something. But the only bummer now is now they're leaving them. So if you're not home, and they really have no options because they've not allowed very many places to have staff to accept the packages, so they're having to just leave them. But luckily most people are home right now, but sometimes you might step out and then you hope your neighbors don't steal your package or something. But so far We haven't had any issues, so knock on wood. Actually, I did have an issue where I thought they got stolen because they said they were delivered. Two packages said they were delivered and they weren't at our door. And I was like, oh no. And then it happened to be that those ones did go to the front desk. That they said, I guess if it came in regular mail, like from the post office, they get it. But even though it was Amazon, it came to the post office or something. I was like, okay, good. Because I was like, oh man, such a pain. I mean, Amazon will give your money back, but it's just more of a pain. I don't like having to get my money back for things like that because then, they lose out on, because who knows where. That's only happened a couple times. And we had one thing where Amazon gave us the money back because they lost the package. And then, so we got the money back. And then we ordered the thing, that whatever it was, and then many months later the package finally arrived, so we had two of the things. Oh yeah, that's cool. But anyways, here comes Jared. She could probably stop me because I just start rambling, and I'm really hoarse today. Let me tell you guys something that I learned really quick. So, the reason why I'm hoarse, I'm just figuring this out. I've been reading about it. So I was bulimic, so that's why I got hoarse. But what happens, this is very important. If anyone is doing bulimia, this is one of the things that, you don't want to continue, is what happens with bulimia is your body, you're not being nutritious, and you're not getting your right nutrition. So when your body heals, it doesn't heal correctly. So if you do this year in and year out, you're going to, every time you get an injury, you're going to heal really bad to where it hurts still. So I couldn't figure out, I have all these pain and I have a lot in my chest because I got an injury right here and I had an injury over here and then just injury from throwing up. Well, I read about the other day, what it literally is your, when you heal and then your bone tries to repair, you get them bone spurs. And that's what the girls get on their chest that's popping out, that they think is like bony, that they think it looks good. Have you seen that? I have it a little bit where you get that bony chest. That is not good. That is really, really bad. I've been trying to get it off for years now, ever since I use this jade tool, but that can cause so much pain and can actually cause so much pressure to where your heart can stop. That's why my heart almost gave out. So seriously, bulimia is serious because it does things like that, because for years you're being so just unhealthy that your body learns how to respond, but it doesn't respond correctly, and you're going to have so many health problems as you get older. Because I'm 35 now, and I did it for 15 years, and it's taking 3 years to get to just where I feel good on a daily basis. And so seriously, if you're considering bulimia right now, if you've never done it before, don't. And I know I hate to tell people don't, but I'm telling you, I was doing it for so long and people could have told me I was blue in the face, but I remember one time we used to go to buffets, and this lady stopped Jared because she knew I was throwing up, and he said, your wife will never be able to digest again if she doesn't stop. And I was like, oh yeah, right, and she was right. It won't be able to digest, and it takes years, so stop doing it. Eat organics. Oh, and the thing people were asking, organic protein, which means primarily I want you to eat organic meat. Organic meat, if you can. If you can't do organic, meat. Meat as in animal meat. This whole vegan thing, I'm going to do a discussion tomorrow about veganism. So check out tomorrow's scope. Will be all about veganism. I was going to do that today, but I decided to talk about something else. But meat is going to be your best option to lose weight. You know how Atkins was on to something. Back in the day, he had some things that were a little off. But you want to eat high protein, and the best protein comes from meat. So you want it to be 60% of your calories are coming from your meat, 20 from oil, and 20 from carbs. So your carbs need to be really, really low, and that means everything. That means fruit, that means veggies. All those are carbs. People think carbs is just your pastas and stuff and bread. If you're still in pastas and bread, that's you're gonna have trouble. Pastas and breads that's gluten. But gluten and dairy, throw it out the window. Anyways, we'll get into that coming forward but if you don't know what to do right now, eat a lot of meat. It seems like something you haven't heard because all the vegans are saying the opposite, but meat is your best source of protein. It will keep you thin. Everything else is what makes you fat, not the meat. You can eat meat till you're blue in the face, but just meat. See, people want to put potatoes. They want to put buns. They want to put no, meat. I'm saying just the meat. So I'm saying a hamburger with no bun, just the patty. I'm saying steak. I'm saying chicken, just a chicken. I'm saying, just the meat. That's where people go wrong, and they want to put sauces on them, and they want to put all this extra stuff. You got to just eat the meat with very basic seasonings. None of those, no ranch dressing. If you put ranch dressing, yeah, that's out the window. I used to put ranch dressing on everything. First thing I would say to throw out if you haven't yet is ranch dressing. One of the worst things you could consume. It has dairy, it has way too much fat, it has gluten, and it has high sugar. And it has artificial everything. So that one's a no-go. I used to be obsessed with ranch. But yeah, someone was asking for tips of what to eat. Meat. And people go, what about the animals? Well, try to choose options that say cruelty-free, cage-free, pasture-raised, humane. They say it on the packages now. You'll see them at the store. They're usually a little bit more expensive because that's what it costs to give the animals better treatment. So that's why they're more expensive. It's not a scam. It's if you want to treat an animal well, the food costs more money because they have to give them better lifestyles, as in not in small cages. That's cheaper to put a bunch of animals in small cages. But the humane doesn't do that. The humane way. And they'll say it. They'll say all kinds of things. Find whichever one works for you. But if you can't afford that, still just choose meat. It's going to be your best option. Sorry, vegans.
Yeah.
I'll do a blog on that. Do I want to get into that? How long is this right now?
Well, we could do that later.
Yeah, that's a whole blog about
we can do that later this afternoon, actually.
Yeah.
You'll be back later today because we're going to probably stay in today. It's pretty cold and rainy and chilly out there.
Okay, because I have a whole blog about veganism. I was a vegan, so I know.
Oh.
Yeah, I was a vegan for like 12 years, you guys.
Well, who knew?
Well, Jack Rich knows that. He's playing funny. But, yeah, I drove my parents nuts. I did it before anyone else was. I had to get a book on it, and I would make my own food and everything because no one was doing it back then. This is in like 1995. Yeah, I became a vegan, and then up until the Air Force, really. Yeah, I stopped at some point when I was in the Air Force. Even up through basic training and everything, I was still a vegan. Through basic training, I only ate the fruits and veggies.
Did you tell them about but just give them a little hint what we're going to talk about.
Yeah, but the problem...
Celebrities.
Oh.
Yeah. Mentioning.
So yeah.
The ones who hung out this long get to hear
okay.
the sneak
well,
preview.
The sneak preview is that there's a lot of celebrities that are really promoting veganism. And fine if you promote veganism. I don't even have an issue with that. This is where I have an issue. They then attack people that promote eating animals, which they say, oh, you're eating the dead and all this stuff. Okay, for one thing, if you're eating plants, you're eating dead as well. And even if you're eating artificial stuff, once they make something, it now is a living organism. So even your artificial meat is now a living organism. They made that. It's still something. So you're always eating life and death. And that's where we gain knowledge. So this concept that you don't want to eat living and dead things is ridiculous. But they go on this thing, and then they say that it's all about, well, the animals are not treated fairly. Well, for one thing, if you eat organics, and like I said, if you choose, then that's not even a factor. So they are getting on this, the same thing with the virus, where they're jumping on the false media or the exaggerating the media, or they're picking the only scenarios that apply to their thing. And then they judge other people. And I've had a celebrity's wife block me just because I was because I was not a vegan, because I was promoting eating meat, and then she lied to me, and we'll get into that. So a local celebrity's wife, who I am very upset with, and she goes around and she promotes veganism all day long, and she's incorrect on her facts. She claims to be a nutritionist, but all of her information is wrong. And I don't know where she thinks she got her nutrition license from. Anyways, like she claimed, I don't claim to be a nutritionist. I'm just telling you guys what my experience is. But if you claim to be a nutritionist and a fitness expert and a trainer, and then you're going around and telling people wrong information all day long, and then bashing other people that are giving the right information. So there's a lot of celebs doing that, and we'll get into that tomorrow. And a lot of the celebs will jump on anything that either they're being paid for, or that they think their fan base is going to be into, or just whatever thing they got suckered into that they think they're the experts on. If you notice, a lot of the young celebs will jump on things too. Like the one, for example, with the veganism is Miley Cyrus. She's a vegan. And I've noticed that the vegans are always people that have a ton of animals, like a ton of dogs. And that's great. I love animals. I love animals so much. You guys don't even know it. And animals love me. Do they not, Jedi Rich?
They love you.
I am like animal. Okay, when I met Jedi Rich, his father had just recently died within. How recent was it that when it was like?
Months.
Yeah, it was very recent when his father had died when we got together. So his mother and sister were living with him because they had all come to Portland after his father had passed away because they had been in Vegas. And they brought their family dog. And I didn't just met Jai Rich. And this dog, his name was Koki. And it was his dad's dog. And this dog became obsessed with me overnight. I couldn't believe it. It was like the sweetest thing, and it was really cool because it had been Jai Rich's dad's dog. And they were shocked. They were like, man, that dog just loves you. Remember that, Jared? Mm-hmm. It was like, it would like, when I would go to work, it didn't want anything to do with Jai Rich. And it would just wait at the door for me to come back. And I had just met the dog like a week earlier.
He loved you.
Oh, that dog loved me. And I was so upset when he passed away. But anyways, but I love animals, but we don't have any now. But we feed the pigeons and the squirrels and the rabbits. And I love wild animals. But it is okay to eat animals. That is a part of life. And animals will eat us if we were in the wild. Now, we have made it a little unfair. I agree with the guns. But that's just the way society went. So we can't say don't eat animals now. Because for one thing, here's the biggest issue with saying only eat the plants. Then we consume too many plants. Do you understand? Like, they think that it's better to say save all the animals and kill all the plants. Do you understand the amount of plants you have to eat for the amount you could get from just a tiny bit of protein is so substantial. Like, you have to eat so much of the plants for just the tiniest bit of an animal protein.
Okay, we'll come back to this. That's a little teaser.
Yeah.